Alright, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Baron. Welcome back to some War Thunder. Now, yes, that is correct. That is an Me-262, which I am flying in historical battle. I believe this was my second jet gameplay I'd ever done in the Me-262. I've flown once before in the F-86 Sabre, of which you will see near the end of this video, or in the second half rather. Now, first look at that. What do you notice? We have a problem with matchmaking in historical battles in War Thunder. Now, right now I think there's 4 Germans still in the game. Most of them quit. Now, why did they quit? Well, because I'm the only jet on my team. There's a few Focke-Wulfs, and there is just the enemy team is almost entirely composed up of MiGs and Sabres, which are level 20 Russian and American fighter jets from the Korean War period, and I'm flying a World War II period German Me-262. So we all know that 1.3 is going to have some new aircraft. Now, what aircraft? There is some speculation. There's a few planes that people are throwing around that will be out, and we'll talk about those a little later. What people have, thought are going to happen. What they thought will be put into the game. But right now we're just kind of going to be talking about the problem with the jets in historical battle right now because of the gaps, I guess you could say, in plane tiers. And what could be done to fix it. So basically what you'll find as a German pilot right here, there's going to be MiG-15s everywhere and a couple Sabres too. I haven't run into too many Meteors, but you can get Meteors at the lower tiers, so maybe that be 16, or I think it's 17, 18, 19. So right now I'm just trying to draw all of these guys fire, and but you know what, there's just no teamwork. Most German pilots will quit. So what's the real cause of this? Well, German jets, you could say, are OP, even if throwing out the flight models and stuff like that of many of the Russian aircraft. Boom, there goes my wings. So that was the flight of the Me-262. Not a very good first flight. But most German pilots stick to the Bf-109s and Focke-Wulfs, which will be, I think, peak out the middle of the teens. And everyone loves the Dora because it's like, people analogize it to clubbing baby seals with that aircraft because it has so much firepower. You hit something once and generally the thing is dead. So most German pilots stick to the Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. A lot of Russian pilots just love the crap out of the MiG-15, and that thing is an absolute beast with its firepower and with its speed. I mean, it's a Korean War era fighter. Now look at this poor guy. He's trying to run. There's 3 MiG-15s on his tail, and that's what happens. You're going to burn to death, and you're going to hit the ground slowly. So the German pilots are partially to blame, mainly because a lot of them stick to these aircraft that are really good, because the Americans have a bit of an issue as well. There is no fighter between level 13, the Mustang, and level 20, the F-86 Sabre. The Americans have very good bomber coverage, but this is kind of an issue you could associate with it being in beta. Gaijin is obviously going to put in more planes. There are a lot of planes to put in. Now this is, when you look in the background here, this is what it looks like to be an ally in a high tier jet. You're like, oh man, I'm so excited to take out my Sabre, and this was my first Sabre game. This was my first jet fighter game. And then you'll just start seeing people quit because no one wants to go up against, 5 MiG-15s and 3 Sabres. Nobody wants to get their ass kicked. Well, except me in the last game, because I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm going to kill at least one of them. I'm going to do the best I can. Dead. So, the American gap causes an issue, American fighter gap. Because it allows the, level 14 through 15, 16 German fighter pilots to beat up on the Americans in the historical battles. So that's where a lot of the German fighter pilots stick to, because it's easier. You're going to get your kills, you're going to rack up your XP because you're having to grind with the economy. So I guess you could say the economy is part of the issue as well. Desperation is a stinky cologne, ladies and gentlemen. And then there's Japan. Now, I mentioned Japan because when you go historical battles, you're going to have Axis versus Allies, except on the rare occasion that you'll have like a Korea map where you'll have the Americans versus the Koreans. I'm not sure if that one's currently in the lineup or is very common anymore, but that one is good because it allows the Americans and the Soviets, because I think, in my experience, this could be wrong, the majority of the jet pilots are that fly their jets are the Americans and the Russians, and I think the British have a fair amount, but most Germans avoid their jets now. You're not really seeing too many of the HS-162s. No one's flying Me-163s anymore because of the fuel capacity in that. So, yeah, the Japanese have no jet. No one's going to fly the Ki-200 because it's a fun aircraft to fly, and it was what people kind of trolled with in 1.27 and before, when it had like unlimited fuel. Essentially, it was a troll aircraft. Now that it is historically accurate in its fuel capacity, I think it's like 8 minutes or less, or even 5 minutes in some cases. I'm not sure. It could be even less. I've never flown one, so there you go. I've only been trolled by a few in 1.27 and seen a few, but so no one's going to fly that because you get, what, 1 or 2 passes and then you got to land, which, by the way, is historically accurate. So, I mean, fair is fair. Once things start flesh out in later patches and upon full release, you'll probably get to see a lot more of the novelty aircraft being played on occasion. But right now, they're not in most people's lineups. Now, when you're looking here, are you going to want to go up against this mighty swarm of Allied aircraft? Allied jet aircraft? No. So with Japan not having a higher tier jets, it falls upon Germany pretty much to bear the burden of fighting the 3 different Allied nations' jet aircraft. And most German pilots aren't up to it, and you'll never really, I mean, not never, but it's rare that you'll have enough in one game to really be like, hey, you know what? Let's fight all those MiGs. Let's fight those Sabres, those Korean War jet fighter aircraft. So there's a couple ways that you can kind of bridge the gap. You're going to have to find something with Japan. Their highest fighter aircraft is 15, and if you throw out the Ki-200 at 17, given its low fuel amount, there's nothing from 15 onwards, so Germany bears the burden, and most of the German fighters are really enjoying, 15, 16, and below, where they can use what are some of the best aircraft in historical battles, the Focke-Wulfs, the Bf-109s, given their high rate of climb. So this is what it looks like. I'm searching for targets. There's only a few that stayed in the game. The ones that do will get mobbed and killed unceremoniously. So I'm going to Sabre, and thank God for ground targets, like, little artillery positions, or else I'd have nothing to shoot at in this game. So I guess you could say that to kind of a lot of American fighters will quit the game when fighting upper tier German fighter aircraft, and a lot of German fighter aircraft will leave when they're faced with superior British, Soviet, and American jets. So like at the higher tiers, there's not a whole lot of action going on. Rarely will you see a game where people stay full. From my experience, that could be wrong. Keep in mind this is beta. Things are subject to change. So, filling the gaps. What did Japan have? What's something that you could fit between 15 and 20? Well, the problem was the Japanese didn't have very many, wonder aircraft like the Germans did, and obviously after they lost World War II, they weren't making anything. You got the the simple solution would be to pick the HE-162 and the Me-262 clones, or the Japanese Nakajima Kika, which is kind of Japan's not so successful derivation of the Me-262, which had 2 test flights, one of which crashed. Another cool aircraft is the oh man, pardon my sickness still. Oh, look at that hit. Yeah, I shot a jet. Kawasaki Ki-264, pretty cool sounding aircraft. It had 2 engines, one in the nose and one right behind the cockpit, so it had 2 contra-rotating props, which allowed it a speed of 690 kilometers per hour. And it had 2 versions, or concept versions, one that had 4 20mm cannons and one that had 2 20mm cannons, or excuse me, 4 20s or 2 20s and 2 machine guns. A more likely option would be the J7W Shinden, which was a push propeller. It had a propeller in the back. But I mean, the Japanese, I don't know what you're gonna do. Maybe some German clones. I'm not really sure what Gaijin's going to do. I'm very curious. However, once the Navy aspect comes in, because I think tanks won't be too hot with Japan unless they allow maybe a concealment action, or maybe have maps that kind of cater to the strengths of the Japanese. Concealment, ambush, lighter tanks on terrains that are not very good for heavier tanks. But I tell you what, where Japan will really shine, man, what is this? I need some water. Where Japan will really shine is in the naval aspect of this game. And they also had what you would consider some wonder weapons. There's the I-400 submarine, if submarines are put in. But I mean, this just kind of goes to show you how Japan really loved their Navy and really kind of got creative there. The I-400 submarine was capable of holding aircraft, so it was nicknamed the submarine aircraft carrier, when in reality it could only hold 3 aircraft, so it's not much of a carrier, but still pretty cool, pretty novel. You have the Shinano, which is a carrier based off the Yamato hull. So I believe it was the largest aircraft carrier in World War II. Look at that, no jets to find. Oh, game's gonna end. See a pilot. I'm gonna need to find a ground target to try to chew up, get a little bit of experience. Then you have the Yamato, and even there was concepts for a Super Yamato. So if Gaijin kind of starts to entertain more of the concept-based aircraft, maybe tanks, the Mouse, German heavy, stuff like that, concept stuff, you might see a Super Yamato. Who knows? But some planes I have heard being implemented. The Lag 366. All we need is another Russian aircraft with a 37mm cannon. I'm Baron. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Baron. Welcome back. Now, what are we looking at right here? Well, this is the new game Rising Storm by Tripwire Interactive. Now, this is from the creators of Red Orchestra 2. It is currently on sale on Steam, and they're having a promotional sale. So you can get this title for 40% off till May 30th. And at the time of recording, that is, let me see, a couple days away. No, I do not want to power it. Yeah, so about 6 days, a little less than a week to check out this title.